Today I'll teach you the process of slicing a data frame in Python Pandas. So coming to the introduction to Pandas data frame slicing. The Pandas data frame slicing is a process of extracting specific rows, columns, or subsets of data based on both the position and labels. So the data frame is nothing but a table format where we can load some data from a list, from a dictionary, from other files, which we call it as a data set. Now slicing is nothing but we need to extract a selected number of rows from the data frame, or selected number of columns from the data frame, or the combination of rows and columns. The selected one can be extracted from the data frame is nothing but a slicing process. Now based on the position and labels. So position implies the index numbers. Obviously we know the index number starts from 0 and ends with n-1 based on the number of rows as well as columns. That is one technique. And the other one is we can create the names for the rows and names for the columns also. We call it as a row heading and column heading. Now those are labels. So based on that also I can retrieve the data. Data frame slicing uses, now the square bracket implies for the list. So this operator is used for data frame slicing, and the specific slicing attributes like iloc stands for indexed based location, and the .loc is for the location. So if you go for extracting the data based on index numbers, then I can go for iloc. If you're extracting the data based on the labels, that is the column names or row names, I can go for .loc. Now iloc attribute is used for specifying for slicing based on position, that is integer based indexing. I stands for integer based indexing. Then loc for slicing based on labels. So the labels can be for rows, which we call it as index labels. Now here the index stands for the row labels, or it could be column labels. Now coming forward to the next one, slicing a data frame by position. The position is nothing but the index based. So the pandas data frame dot iloc you can see here. So the data frame reference you need to take dot iloc for index based location attribute used to slice a data frame based on the integer position of rows and columns. When you talk about the data frame, we have rows and columns. Rows are having the index numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 or till n-1, and columns are also having the index numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. Okay, so if you are extracting any row or any column or a combination of rows and columns based on index numbers, then you can go for this attribute. I'll show you the example how to work with. Then syntax, if you can see, syntax of slicing a data frame using .iloc attribute. Now here we need to take the data frame reference, like we write now import pandas as pd and df equal to, we create a data frame based on the dictionary also. So the data frame reference you need to take .iloc attribute you need to call, and here in the list in the square bracket you need to start off with row starting index number colon is a slicing operator, then row index number, row starting index number and row ending index number separate with the colon, comma, column starting index number colon, column ending index number, both you need to take. Okay, and when you go for the iloc, and that is index based indexing, here it starts with the row start, and whatever the row end you are going to give here, it will take n-1. If suppose I write 1 colon 3, so it will start with row number 1, but it will end with n-1, that is 3 means 3 minus 1 2. So only 1 and 2 row will be extracted. Similarly here also 1 comma 3 for make column, no? Starting with column number 1 but ending with column number n-1, that is 3 minus 1 2. So any point of time when you go for indexing concept, you need to remember that starting number will be same, but ending number 1 minus 1 will need to be considered. See where row underscore start, this one, and row underscore end, indicates the start and end integer based index values of the data frame rows. Similarly, column underscore start and column underscore end are the column index values. So this one. Okay. Now if you take this example, the example is for slicing data frame rows by position. Position is nothing but the index number, what I said. So here we need to use iloc attribute. So any point of time we want to use the data frame, we need to import pandas library. But if you want, every time if at all I need to use this pandas library, I need to read the complete word. I don't want to write, so I'm creating an alias name called pd. So pandas as pd, that is alias name. Now here df, I'm taking one data frame variable initialized with the pandas pd dot data frame. I'm creating a data frame. Now here we have a list. Inside that we have inner list like a comma b, two characters as one list. This implies this is row number 1. C comma D is row number 2, one more list, inner list. E comma F, this is third, and this is 4. So 4 rows are being considered here. And we are not giving any row labels. Okay. So if you don't give any labels for the rows, it will start with 0, 1, 2, and 3 like that. Now you can see here after this list is over, we are writing column specifically. Columns attribute equal to first column heading is column 1, second column heading is column 2. If we take this row, A is becoming first column, B is becoming second column, C is becoming second row, first column, second row, second column, third row, first column, second column, like that. But here for the rows, we are not having any labels, so it will start with 0, 1, 2 like that. But column specifically, I'm giving column 1, column 2 as the headings. So if you take print input or data frame, you get like this same. We print df. Now this df is data frame. You can see the output here itself. AB row number 1, 2, 3, and 4. But as I said, the index number is starting with 0, 1, 2, and 3. So first row 0 index, second row is 1 index, third row is 2 index, and fourth row is 3 index. Okay, but you can observe here column 1 and column 2, because here we are clearly specified column 1 and column. If suppose you don't specify this, you get here 0 and here you are going to get 1. Since you have specified columns equal to, clearly we are going to get the output column 1 and column 2. Now if you can see here, slice rows based on position. I'm taking this data frame what you have created, dot iloc attribute. Now I start with row number 1. Start row number 1, colon, row end. Row end is 3. When I write 3, the third row is not considered because I clearly mentioned n-1 concept here. So only first row and second row will be taken into consideration. Third row will not take it. But here if you see, column start is not there, column end is not there. So implies both columns will be considered here. So how many columns are there? Only 2 columns are there. So 2 columns are considered. But among the 4 rows, only first and second row will be the output. So you can see print output and result. You get output here. You get the result only 2. First row. Can you see first row C and D? So you got first row C and D because this is a starting row. Ending row 3 minus 1. So it is 2. So 2 second row E and F. So you got E and F. So this third is not considered because n-1 concept has been included. So only 1 and 2 will be extracted. Now slicing a data frame by label. Now the pandas data frame dot loc. Now in the previous slide we have seen iloc, but here now we are seeing dot loc. Loc for label, loc for indexing. Used to slice a data frame based on labels of rows and columns. So rows can have labels instead of 0, 1, and 2 like that, and columns are also, just now we are seeing the column labels call 1 and call 2. Okay, syntax we'll see for .loc attribute. Now here you can see data frame object .loc row label start. So the rows header, heading starting header, and row ending header. Similarly, so here you need to observe colon is there. Starting row label, ending row label, comma, starting column label and starting ending column label with a colon. Okay, so only the difference is there we were writing index numbers, here we are writing the labels. Now where row label start and row label end indicate the start and end labels of the data frame rows. Column label start and column label end are the column labels. Okay. Now here, slicing data frame rows and columns by labels. Now here we take the same example. Import pandas as PD, and here by using PD dot data frame I'm creating. So here the same nested list. First row AB, second row CD, third row EF, fourth row GH. And columns you can see column 1 and column 2. Comma, I'm giving the index. Index means rows. Rows labels also. Like R1 is for the 0 index, R2 for 1 index, R3 for second index, and R4 for the third index. Okay, so earlier program we were writing 0, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3. Here instead of 0, 1, 2, 3 you can see you get R1, R2, R3 and R4. Okay, so this is the way you are going to change the index numbers to the labels. Now this R1, R2, R3 and 4 are row labels. Call 1 and call 2 are the column labels. Now you can see original data frame you're printing, you're getting. Instead of 0, 1, 2, 3 in the previous slide, you can see 0, 1, 2, 3 was there, but here R1, R2, R3 and R4. And obviously this is first row AB, second row CD, third row EF, fourth row GH. Now coming to the slicing, you can see df.loc. Now in earlier slide we were using iloc where I was writing index 1 comma 1 colon 3. But here R1 colon R3. So R1 colon is first row, R3 colon. But here when you write labels, no, both are inclusive. That is R1 is row is included and R3 row is also been included. That's the change what you need to consider. Okay. Earlier I was writing 1 colon 3. I said clearly 3 minus 1 you need to take. So only 1 and 2 will be considered. But when you write labels, both are included. R1 is included, R3 is also included, and in between what a number of rows are there should be included. Okay. But here how many columns I'm trying to extract? Only one column. But how many columns are there? Actually 2 columns. But I don't want column 2, I want only column 1. We're writing column 1. Okay. So R1 colon R3, so 3 rows. Can you see R1, R2 and R3? But only column 1 we are taken. So 3 rows, no? A, C and D will be printed. A, C and D will be printed. If you want to write column 2 also, you can write colon column 2. So both you are going to get. Okay. Now data frame column slicing by position. Now here I'm going for the column based on the index number. So here import pandas as PD as common and data equal to I'm creating one dictionary. This is a key and this is the value. This is the key, B is key and value. C is a key and value. So this A, B and C are become the column names. And under the columns, we have the first column A and its 3 values. Second column B is 3 values. Under C, we have 3 values. So any point of time you go with the dictionary, the key becomes the column name. Now, I'm creating a PD.data frame of complete data I'm passing here. That is nothing but dictionary. I'm creating one data frame. Okay. Now df.iloc, that is index based again. So you can see I put only colon. If you put only colon, all rows should be considered. I'm not giving any starting and ending. So all rows is considered. But here you put comma and 0. 0 means only column 1. Only column 1 you are going to consider. So how many columns are there here? A is 1 column, B is 1 column, and C is 1 column. But here I want this complete data, but only for column 0. And here you can see slicing a single column A using iloc attribute. And you are printing this col underscore variable. So can you see the output here? Only this 1, 2, 3 has been taken into consideration. And the index number for this one is 0, 1, and 2. And the name of the column is A. And its data type is integer 64. Now coming to the multiple columns, you can see a df.iloc. Here I am going for all rows again. So how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3 means 3 rows only are there. But here I want 0 colon 2. So when you put index numbers, what I clearly mentioned is n-1 concept you need to use. So 0 is first column, then 1 will become the second column. So third column is not considered. Okay, only 2 columns I'm trying to extract. So slicing multiple columns A and B using iloc attribute. And what are the answer you're getting here? The 2 columns will be stored here and print. So can you see the output only A and B? A is 0 index, B is 1 index. So you're going to get only 2 answers. Okay, so like that we can go for splitting the columns also. But you need to observe that only I put colon here, but all rows you can. So 3 rows are there. So 3 rows you are going to put. First row, second row, and third row. But 3 columns are there, but I want only 2. So I am extracting only 2. So 0 and 1 index only I am considered. 2 is not considered. Now data frame column slicing by labels. So the same example you can take. So A, B, and C, and here you got under A you got 3 values, under B you got 3 values, and C you got 3 values, and here df.loc. So the data frame we have created with the dictionary, right? df.loc, again here all rows, but here I put the label called A. So earlier slide we put 0, no? But here I am putting the label, the column label as A. So here this one. So only this values are extracted. So you get 1, 2, 3, and name is A. When you go for multiple columns, here you can see all rows again, but here I'm column A and column B. When you write labels in slicing, both are inclusive. So you get A and B. Can you see here? A and B you got? Okay, if you write C here, A, B, C, all 3 columns are going to get. Okay, so when you write labels, we don't follow n-1 concept. When you write index numbers, we follow n-1 concept. That you need to. When you write index numbers, we go for n-1. When you go for labels, we don't go for n-1 concept. Both are inclusive here. Now modifying values after slicing. Can I modify any values after slicing? We'll see. So again, import pandas as PD, and I'm going for a data frame, and I'm going for a nested list. First row AB, second row CD, third row E, F, and GH, and columns. Same example what I was showing in the first slide. Original data frame we are printing. So this is the original data frame what you got. Then modify a subset of the data frame using iloc. df.iloc. So here 1:3 means starting row index is 1, ending index is 3 means 3 minus 1, 2. So only 2 rows I need to consider. Only 2 rows, and only that to 1 column. 0 index is 1 column only. 2 rows I need to consider, that is row number 1 and row number 2, and only 2 values. The 0 index only row number 1 row. So C and D is there. Okay, so try to understand. Row number 1 is a starting index, row number 3 is ending index. When you write index number, I clearly mentioned n-1 concept is applicable. So 1 and 2 only rows we need to consider, and that too only column number 0. So can you see column number row number 1, column number 0, this one only, no? We have C. Row number 2, column number 0, we have E. So now these two C and E should be replaced with X and Y. That is called modifying. And after doing that, you can see modifying data frame DF. Can you see here? Instead of C and D, I got X and Y. Okay, so once you print the original data frame, you need to go for a new line. Here also, new line for separator. Okay, so only these two X and instead of C and F, X and Y is replaced. So this is called modifying the values. So like that, you can extract a single column, multiple columns, multiple rows, single rows, anything you can do. Now we go for a demonstration of data frame slicing examples in Google Colab. So let me open the Google Colab. So you can just type Google Colab in Google, and you get press enter, and you get these links, and you just click the first link. And you get a new notebook, and just go with that. So it will open the environment where you can type your code. So this is an environment where you can just type the code or change the file name and so on. So I have done already, so I'll show that. So you can see now we are slicing data from rows by position. Same example. Okay, I've executed this and I have put this particular screenshot in the PPT. Okay, so you can see the same example: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, H, 4 rows, and column 1 and column 2 the labels. The first program, and you're printing that, and iloc only 1 and 2 rows, but all columns. So just execute that. Can you see here only 2 rows because I given 1:3. So first row and second row, only these two are good output. But here I have not put any column starting and column ending. So you got both the columns. Okay. So this is one program. Then accessing only if you want accessing only row 1. So what I can do, same data frame what you have loaded here, this one can be taken dot iloc of 1. So row 1, if you can see C and D. Can you see here? Row 1, column C and column D. Okay, this one you got row 1. Okay, because I don't put any slicing, I want only one row. Okay. Then here, second row already we can see E and F. You can see E and F, 2 columns. Okay. Now slicing data frame rows and columns by labels. So same example I was explaining, R1, R2, and R3, R4 instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I put R1, R2, and R3, R4. Same example. So instead of writing 1:3, I'm writing R1:R3. But here the thing is, when you go for labels in slicing, this ending is also been inclusive that you need to consider. So if you can see the output here, the labels R1, R2, R3, and R4 because I have written clearly index means rows. Okay. But here if you can see this, you got 0, 1, 2, and 3. I don't want this. I want to change. So I have specifically written index. Index means rows. R1, R2, R3, R4. Because 4 rows are there, 4 rows I put. But here I want only R1 to R3. So only this much. And that to column 1, not the second one. Can you see here? Only column 1 I put. So you get R1 with A, R2 with R3 is also inclusive because we are writing labels, not index numbers. Now single row, single column if you want, you can write R1 first row, column 1. If you take this R1 and column 1, the single value is A. So you got the output A. Now here dot loc I'm taking, and here you can see only colon I put. That means all rows, all rows, but only column 1. Can you see? For column 1, all rows you got R1, R2, R3, and R4. Okay, because only you are putting a slicing operator. That means there is no starting and ending point. So all are considered, rows are considered. But here you have put only column 1, so you get only column 1. If I make to column 2, so you get column 2 values, BDFH. Okay. If I make call 1, both you need to get. Okay. Let me interchange this. Okay. Can you see you got both call 1 and call 2? Now data frame column slicing by position. Columns, how to go for. Same example what I was teaching in the slide. So here 3 keys, which is column names, and this is acting as a values for that particular column. So 3 rows and 3 columns. And here df.iloc, so all rows, but only 0 index means column 1. So that is only column A. Now can you see here only column A 1, 2, 3 you got, and name of the column is A. Similarly, when you go for iloc, and here also all rows, but 0:2. When you go for 0:2, you need to go only for 0 and 1, because 2 means 2 is not considered because n minus 1 concept. So here only 2 columns, because this is a column set, right? So A is 0 column, B is 1 column, and 2 is not considered because this one is C. If you want this one also, what you need to do here is you just increase one more till 3 and execute. Can you see this one also you got? Because 3 minus 1 is 2, no? Till 2 only you have got this one. 0 index, 1 index, and 2 index. Okay. So like that you can do. Now data frame column slicing by labels. Now here the same example, but instead of 0, I'm writing a label called A. Okay, so that only you get this output. And you can see only the first output is 1, 2, 3. But when you go for the multiple things, A and B is there. So both you are going to get. Can you see here both? Because both are included. I said multiple times clearly. Like whenever you go for labels, both are included. So you get AB. If I write, maybe if I write C, I need to get all 3. Can you see you get all 3 here? Okay. Now modifying values after slicing. So here 4 rows, again the same example I'm taking, 2 column names, column 1 and column 2, and I'm original data frame printed like this. Okay, this is original one. But here I'm going to take data frame, the original data frame, and iloc 1:3. 1:3 is nothing but rows here. Okay. So 3 is not considered, so only 1 and 2. So only this much I'm going to take. C, D, not D. C and D should be replaced with only the first column, not second column. X comma Y. So C and D should be replaced with X comma Y. Can you see here? X. C is replaced with X and E is replaced with Y. Okay. If I put 0:2, maybe this also need to be worked out here. Now both are becoming here X and Y. Can you see here? X and Y is been taken. Okay. So only one column. This one. Okay, X and Y. So like that, it depends in what way you're going to modify. Okay, in what way you want to slice, or how many number of columns you want, how many number of rows you want. Because when you go for any real-time application, your requirement is different. Multiple number of data you want, multiple ways you want. So basically you go for this slicing in a data frame by using this concept. So I hope I've given some input on what is data frame, what is the data frame slicing, what is the iloc attribute, what is loc attribute, index, integer based indexing, then label indexing for both rows and columns. If you like this video, do comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thank you.